Well, good day and welcome to this Model Railroad Academy live event. I am Ron Marsh, your host here today. And today we are going to begin a series talking about building Craftsman kits, the basics of building Craftsman kits, and some of the specific techniques that you can use as you work on these types of kits. This is pretty exciting for me because I love Craftsman kits. I love working with wood. It's a great kind of a step up into that intermediate level of modeling as you're building structures. As you go from working with plastic to working with wood, it can be a little more delicate. Can take some different skills than it does to build plastic kits. But they're skills that are not difficult to learn, and we're going to show you exactly how to do it with a kit starting today, step by step, start to finish. I want to mention before we go too far that we have a great free resource for you that I hope you'll check out after we're finished with our live stream today. And that is a free download. You'll see the link right below this video here on the Model Road Academy page. And that is 10 household items that are perfect for scenery. Well, we've pulled together 10 great household items that you can use, that you probably have in your house right now, that you can use to help build scenery and things on your layout. It's a great, inexpensive way to practice some new skills and get some great details on your layout. So you can get that as soon as you're finished watching this video, just by clicking the banner right down below this video. Well, today, as I said, we're going to start building a wood Craftsman kit, and I want to share with you some techniques that will help you as you begin making maybe your first foray into working with wood. And as we build this, again, start to finish, we're also going to be weathering and painting this structure and showing exactly how to make it look fantastic on your layout. So we want you to have all of those ideas and all of those skills at your disposal. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera down to the workbench so you can see exactly what we work on, and as we get this kit opened up and get started. So here we go to the workbench, and that's just a little crooked, so we're going to straighten it up just a little bit there. The kit that we're going to be working on through this series is this kit by JL Innovative Designs. And specifically, this is the East Junction section house, and we're building it in scale. Those of you who have watched me before know that my model railroad is an in scale, and I'll actually be using this structure on my layout. Now, this is a small kit, which is a great place to start as you're getting into working with wood kits, but it still takes the same skills that it would to build a much larger kit of the same design in wood. So I'm just going to open the kit up and jump right in and get started. Let you see exactly what's inside. Here we have a little package that has our wood wall details. This, you may not be able to even see that. That's, of course, the clear acetate, which will be the window glazing. And if I can get everything to come out of the box, there are several other pieces of wood in here that are made for trim and for bracing. There you can see those. This little package has our door and window details, and on this kit, the window and door details are made of plastic, so we'll actually be using a combination of materials in this kit. And then there are these two pieces, and if you get a kit like this, you want to make sure not to throw these away. You might look at those and think, oh, those are just packaging, but in fact, they're not. This piece of cardstock will actually be what we build our roof out of. And if you'll notice this brown piece of paper, it says right on it, rolled tar paper roofing material. This is what we're going to be shingling our roof with when we get to that step. So make sure that you keep all of the parts from your kit. Of course, there are also a set of instructions. I actually pulled them out earlier, and you can see them here, and we'll be referring to them from time to time as we build. Now, anytime I build any kind of a kit, one of the things that really helps me is to keep everything together and keep it organized. Often we work on a kit, I'm working on it one day, and then I have to let things dry. I may work on something else for a little while, and so I step away from it. And if I'm working on multiple things, it's easy to get things mixed up or lost. So what I like to do is just keep a number of little containers around. This is just the top off of a candy box, but that's perfect for keeping my extra parts in. And so I'm going to put the parts in here that I know I'm not going to be needing for a while. the cardstock, the rolled roofing paper, also this piece of acetate, and we'll be putting the other parts in there as we need and as we're finished with them. All right, to start off with, let's just get our parts out here so we can see. Of course, the key details here are the roof sections and the door and wall details. One of the things that you're going to want to have on hand, you're going to want to keep close at hand, is of course a hobby knife with a good sharp number 11 blade in it. This is a brand new blade I put in just before we went live, and you're going to want a good sharp blade. And we're going to start to use it just by opening the package here, and here we'll see all of our details. Now, the wonderful thing about these wood kits, and I hope that you can see it on camera, is these have some great detail. I'll turn it different ways. Hopefully, you can, in the light, you can see this is a clapboard type of siding, and it really shows up well in wood. Nothing really looks more like wood than wood itself, and that's especially going to be true as we talk about how we're going to weather that, which you'll see actually beginning here in just a few minutes. So we'll get all of our detail parts out here. This piece here is actually, well, one of these. No, this one here is actually a door section that we're going to use. And just get these all lined out here. There, we have all of our wall parts that we're going to be working with. And I'm going to go ahead and pull out our door and window details as well, just so we can see what all of the kit parts look like. And you see here we have the door, which is a two-part door. It comes with a door frame and the door itself, which is a nice bit of detail. There's another door, same way, door and frame, and then of course all of the windows. Now these again are plastic parts, and so they are all in little sprues as they came from the injection molding. I've got a little piece here, and I think that is probably a smokestack. I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not going to throw that away. We're going to keep it. We'll look back at the instructions a little bit, make sure that we know where that goes. Okay, step one is going to be we want to prepare all of our parts for working on them, which means we want to cut out our plastic details from the sprues, and we want to make sure that all of the holes that are laser cut in each of the wall sections are the right size for these, so that they're going to fit into place. So in my case, I'm going to use my sharp number 11 blade. You may have a sprue cutter or a sprue nipper, which would be ideal for this as well. But these are pretty soft and delicate little bits. I don't want to cut them too close. Don't want to take a chance on damaging the part in any way. Just want to remove that excess sprue. And as I do that, I'm going to pick each one of those up, and we've got a little bit of flash and that is left from where the sprue was connected. And so we're going to come in with a sanding stick, and this is just a fairly fine sanding stick here, and I'm just going to dress those up a little bit to remove that excess bit of flashing. We don't want to hit those too hard because we don't want to sand into the actual part itself or damage any of the details. Just want to get that excess flash off of there, and that looks pretty good. I think if I put that on my finger, you can see that really comes out looking pretty nice. Maybe just a little bit right there. Okay, so we're gonna do that for all of our parts. Now, I know that you probably didn't tune in to watch me sand all morning long, and I'm not going to do that, but we're going to do a couple of these because we're going to do some painting in a little bit, and I want to have a few of these ready to go as we do that painting, so you can see exactly how we're gonna paint and prepare these, because we're going to do it in a little different way than you might normally think of just painting a window frame for a kit. So we'll get a couple of these ready to go. This one has a nice, of course, they all have these nice fine detailed mullions in the windows. They also have a nice nice base, just nice detail all the way around these. These are good detail parts. There's a couple of those, and we'll come back to the rest of those in a little bit later. Um, the other thing we want to do is we want to make sure that our windows and doors are going to fit into the holes again that are laser cut for them here. So we're just going to take one of these windows and we're going to go around to each one of these window openings and see if it fits. Now in this case, as I'm putting this window in here, I'm realizing that this hole is just a little bit tight. And they intentionally cut them a little tight because they don't want the holes to be too large. So again, I'm going to come in with my sanding stick. And I'm just going to sand the edges of that window opening a little bit. It was mostly tight on the edges, and I can sand that with a little bit of aggressiveness. I've got a little bit of play there because we have the size of the window frame that will cover the hole, and you see there just that little bit of sanding, and now that window just fits right into place. It fits perfectly. So we're going to do that with each one of these. And again, I know that you didn't tune in just to watch me sand all morning, but just I'm going to do enough of that you can get the idea there. And that one actually fits perfectly into that window, so we will be fine with that. We want to do that again for each one of these windows and doors, just to make sure that every opening is big enough and is going to fit. Um, it's going to fit the doors or the window pieces that are made to go into them well. Um, Next, we want to prepare these for actual painting themselves. Now, the plastic parts, they're ready for painting as they are. But the one thing I am going to do with the plastic parts is I need some kind of a handle to hold on to them. These are obviously very small, a little difficult to just hold and paint. And so what I'm going to do is I've taken, this is just a paint stirring stick that you get from anywhere that you would buy paint. And I've taken just some painter's tape and take a piece and turn it so that the sticky side is out, and wrap it backwards around the outside of this painting stick. And now that's nice and sticky. And I'm going to take these parts, make sure that I will have the dressed face, or the face that I want to paint, facing up. And we're just going to stick those on there. And then I can hold on to the painting stick and can paint those without having to actually handle them or get fingerprints on them, and that'll work really well. Uh, for the wood parts, now sometimes these have a little bit of kind of a wood flash, a little bit of a wood grain that sticks up, some fibers. And so what I like to do is I like to get a piece of extra fine steel wool, and just go over those. You don't have to do a lot with this, but just go over them a little bit with that steel wool, and that will remove any of that fiber that is sticking up that can interfere with our paint. Now, as I do this, in a little bit, I'm going to blow my work surface off because some of the steel wool, will naturally kind of come off. Now, these pieces like this, we have to be very careful with because these are very fragile and they'll break very easily. So I'm going to just carefully kind of support that and just touch it a little bit with the steel wool so as not to break those little pieces. And I'm going to do that on all of these wood parts now, because when I go to coloring them, I want to do them all at once. So this is my door piece. This is a much thinner piece here because this is our door, and it's got a little different texture to it than the rest does. But we're going to, at this point, we're going to treat it in the same way. One more piece. Again, this one very, very delicate on this side, so we want to be really careful with it so we don't break a piece off. If you do break a piece, you can always glue it back together. And with wood, it's fairly forgiving that way, but it'd be a lot better off if we didn't have to. And then I'm just literally going to take each of these and kind of blow them off to make sure I get all that steel wool off. Just want to make sure I don't have any of that steel wool bits left on there. And the bit of steel wool that's here on my work surface, I'm just going to kind of wipe away with a rag. Okay, now we're going to get to the part that is a lot more exciting. I want to prepare these because when I go to weather this structure, I want to leave it with a weathering that makes it look like it has old peeling paint. I'm going to paint the basic structure white, but if I peel that paint, I need the wood underneath it to look like it is weathered. So our first step is going to be to give a weathered look to the wood. And then next time, when we come together next week, part 2 of our series, we'll be painting this and then doing the peeling paint effect and allowing that weathered wood underneath to show. Now, there are a number of products that you can use to stain wood for hobbies. You can even use a regular wood stain if you want to, or there are a number of hobby stains. But in this case, just wanting a purely weathered wood look, what I like to use is an India ink solution. Now, this is India ink. You can buy this wherever you buy art supplies. So your art supply store or your general hobby store will probably have this. And this is literally just what it says. It is black waterproof ink. And what I do is I make a wash solution by taking a teaspoon of India ink and mixing it in with a pint of 70% isopropyl alcohol. And that gives us a weathering solution that I use for all kinds of things. I use it for staining my rock castings to put the shadows in those. I use it sometimes on plastic structures just to bring out the highlights of the shadows of the crevices between different parts of a structure or whatever. But it works great for weathering wood as well. And I've got here just a little bowl that I always use for my India ink solution. And I don't need very much of this. I'm going to put just a little in my bowl here. You want to be very careful with this India ink, though, because whatever it gets on, it is going to stain black and it's going to be permanent. So you want to be careful there. I don't want to get it on my mat here, so I've got just a piece of cardboard that I'm going to lay down here, and on top of that, I'm going to put just a plain piece of kitchen paper towel just to absorb any excess that we have, and then we'll put our wall pieces out here. I want to spread them out just a little so I can work on them individually. Now, when you go to apply this India ink, you can use a regular paintbrush, like an artist's paintbrush if you want. But you need to know that it's going to ruin that paintbrush. If you use it for India ink, you're not going to want to use it for anything else. What I use all the time for mine is just one of these foam brushes that you can, kind of a disposable brush that you can use. You can get these at a hardware store for painting. And I just keep it all the time. I squeeze it out and keep it right in this bowl and use it for applying India ink. Now, as we apply India ink or paint or anything that has moisture to it, to wood, this is basswood. It's very thin and it is susceptible to warp. So one of the things that we want to do, first of all, is we want to make sure that we apply the moisture to both sides. So we're going to apply this India ink to both sides of our pieces here, and then that way that'll help keep them from warping as much. And then we're also going to apply some weight to them to flatten them out, so that we know that they'll be nice and flat and straight for us when we go to work on them. So try to get this bowl out of the way here. I'm just going to take my foam brush and we're just going to apply this India ink here. It's going to start off looking real dark. As it dries, it's going to fade down. Plus, we're going to blot it a little bit here. I can get them to lay still. You see, when it first goes on, obviously it's black ink. It looks very dark. but we're going to help that here in a bit. As it starts to dry, you're going to notice that it's going to leave the wood kind of a gray, a dark gray color, which is a good color for weathered wood. Now, with the ink applied to one side, I'm going to bring in another paper towel, and I'm just going to blot that a little bit, just to blot up the excess so I don't leave too much on there. We don't want to leave it too black. And there's the one side. Now, again, I think you maybe can already see that board starting to warp just a little bit. That's what will happen if we allow that to just be applied to the one side. These don't have to be perfectly, the India ink doesn't have to be perfectly even. It can be a little bit blotchy. That would be natural and normal. Plus, remember that that we're going to be painting this structure and then just peeling some paint off in some places. So, not all of this is going to show. So if it's a little bit blotchy, that will be okay. That won't really show anyway. And if it's uneven as to the darkness in one place compared to another, that would be pretty normal for a weathered structure, weathered piece of wood. Okay, there is that one, and we'll blot that as well a little bit just to remove the excess. Okay, now again, we've got enough of the India ink on there to stain these, but we want to remove all the moisture that we can. And you see I've got a fair amount of ink on this paper towel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a fresh paper towel. I'm going to remove my cardboard now. I'm going to get a fresh paper towel, and I'm going to move these pieces onto here. Ooh, that little door is very thin and very soft. So we've got to be really, really careful. Again, while these are wet, they're going to be extra delicate and extra susceptible to bending and getting misshapen. Okay, I've got my pieces on a clean paper towel here. And then in order to help keep these straight, I'm going to put another piece of clean paper towel over the top of them. And then I'm just going to cover them with something flat. In this case, I've got a hard cardboard notebook here, and literally, I'm just going to cover these with something flat, and then put something heavy on top of them. And in my case, I'll use this is a magazine rack full of magazines just to give it some weight, and those are going to help keep those flat while they dry. And I probably want to leave that on there for 12 to 24 hours. That'll let the moisture completely be drawn out of the wood, allow them to dry completely and be nice and flat. Now, I'm going to move this out of our way because we're going to do one more step today, but then I'm going to put these back in that flat spot as soon as we're finished. The one other thing that I want to do today, and again, I didn't cut out all of these pieces yet, but you get the idea about cutting parts out of a sprue. I'm going to paint these, and I'm going to paint them with the idea in mind of weathering them. So, whereas on my wood, I stained it with the India ink. Plastic works a little differently. We're going to have to use a different technique to weather the wood. Now, so I'm going to paint all of the window dressings and the doors. I'm going to paint them a green color. But I want to give the weathered wood look to the parts before I paint them, so we can get that weathered look. And for that, I'm going to paint them a gray color. And in this case, I'm using Model Masters, and it is their light sea gray. And if you want the part number, that's number 4759 from Model Masters. This is an acrylic paint, very easy to work with. And I've shaken this up, got it well shaken. And we're just going to come in with a small brush, and we're just going to give these a coat of paint. This will also kind of serve as a primer, which will help other paint, stick to these windows. Never hurts to have kind of a second coat, underneath our finished coat. Too much paint there. and I don't know on camera that this is not a big color change. I don't even know how much you can tell because these are kind of a tan to begin with, and then this gray is almost in the shading, the same kind of color, same kind of darkness. So, but I'm going to give them a nice coat of this gray paint, and we're going to let that dry completely, and then we're going to come back and we're going to weather those as we paint them. Now, one thing that I haven't done here, almost forgot, and I apologize for that. We're gonna we're going to come back with our cardboard and our paper towel again because I did all of our wall pieces, but what I've almost forgotten over here, we have all of these little pieces of trim, and we'll be cutting these to fit in various places for our model, but we're going to want them to be painted and weathered in the same way as the rest of the model. So we're going to come in here and give them a little coat of this as well. Now, some of these pieces will not show, but the ones that won't show, having the weathering on them won't hurt them. And those that do show, we want to have weathered and painted. And you see, I got about 3 different sizes of this wood here, and as you read the directions, you're going to see some of this is going to be used for trim, and then other pieces are going to be used for bracing. But again, we're going to be in our best shape if we have them all weathered pretty much the same so that they will be consistent with one another throughout the model. Uh, just make our job later a little bit easier. Make sure that we get all of the parts here. There we go. And I'm not as worried about these warping. These long pieces like this, warpage is not going to be an issue with these. So we're just going to get our weathering on here, and then we'll come back and we will blot them just a little bit to kind of take off the excess. And then for those, I can just kind of roll them out here on my cardboard, and we'll leave those to dry. And that may not seem like a lot of progress today, but in doing all of those things, we've actually come a long way in preparing ourselves for building this model. Off camera before next week, I'm gonna remove the sprues and paint the rest of these window and door details just like I did the 2 that you saw. And other than that, we're gonna pick up exactly here next week. I'm gonna come over here. I think we've had some comments and questions here, and I'm going to try to catch a few of those if I can. I go ahead and turn the camera back up here on me, and I'm sorry if you're looking sideways at me here as I'm looking at my computer. But here's a question from Finley who asks, "What glue do you recommend for putting together HO plastic buildings? I find some glues don't hold well and are unsightly." That's a good question. Um, Back when I first started in model railroading 25 years ago, it seemed like everybody was using CA or super glue. And what I discovered is that CA may work when we first build a model, but over time it gets brittle and it turns loose. I would recommend for most plastic models a solvent type of cement, which on the market right now, Flexifile makes a solvent cement. Um, Micromark markets one called, I believe it's called Same Stuff. And Plastruct actually has 2, one specifically for styrene to styrene applications, and then the other one is made for more general use of various kinds of plastic. But literally a solvent cement will kind of soften and melt the plastic and allow you to literally weld them together into a very strong bond. And that's what I would use. Now, when you use that solvent cement, like in the corner of a structure, you want to apply it from the inside, because if you have any detail in the plastic itself, it will tend to mar that detail from the outside. But that's going to be your best bet for that kind of an application. Um, Here's someone who says, "I'm just starting my layout, and this is a great starting tutorial for making houses." Thanks, you're very welcome. And think that's all that I see right now. So I want to thank you for joining me today for this first part of building Craftsman Kits 101. Next week we're going to pick up exactly where we've left off, and we're going to do what I think is some of the most fun and exciting parts of building Craftsman kits as we paint and weather this thing before we assemble it. And we're going to be doing that next week. So I want to encourage you to join me again. That'll be again next Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Central Time, and be sure and join us then. Also, before you go, be sure and check out that resource down below, the 10 household items that you can use in scenery on your layout. I know that you'll find some suggestions there that you're going to find really, really useful. Well, until next week, I hope you all are staying safe. I hope that you are well. I hope that you'll stay encouraged and enjoy some time working on your model railroad and allow that to be some good therapy for you. I look forward to seeing you next week.